while food was no longer a problem by this point, coal, however, was. A solution to that was being researched and was nearing completion. A new day meant another law. Well, certainly on this day. And there was only one law that had any interest. The care house. Sorry. Yes, the care house was the only law that had any interest to the leader of Sanctuary. Yes. She obviously planned ahead for that. Oh, and my apologies, I confused the coal thumper research with the steelworks. That was completed. As for the coal thumper, that was completed before day 7. After this, there was nothing to research except heaters in the work buildings. And that was not necessary, at least not at this point. And besides, better research facilities were of interest to the leader of that city. Because it meant certain technologies could be looked into. Technologies such as better means of gathering coal, and also a food supply that requires fewer people to operate. She understood enough that one coal thumper by itself would not be enough. Perhaps one gathering post for coal thumper would not be enough. Which was why she was planning ahead. Sorry about that. Planning ahead with the north. and also considering a coal thumper to the west, where the coal piles would no longer be. Another sawmill was being constructed to the southeast, as would be... Yes, words are failing me today. Would be needed for many things, not just better research. According to what I've got written here, she was planning ahead for a coal thumper around the north, along with a gathering post to not only gather the steam cores nearby, but also the steel, so that she could make a move towards the steel works construction around the iron ore, iron being a component, material. Sorry, no. Let me put it in a better way. Iron was one of the ingredients for steel. Oh, and the snow dune was reached by the scout party, revealing more locations. They then decided to head towards a fishing boat. Well, there was bound to be some supplies there. Fish is something the people could eat. And if there was some that was still edible on the boats, the cold would protect it from going rotten. And to think, ice was once an expensive luxury imported from the lakes of Norway. Well, in this situation, it was not exactly in short supply, unlike coal. It was at this point that she understood that more gathering posts would be needed if there was to... if the coal supply problem was to be remedied soon enough for it not to run out. The food supply would be enough for this next group of refugees, although the group that would follow them would require another hunter's hut. Thankfully, the housing, well, that would be remedied with another tent made. While the coal supply would be remedied with more gathering posts, as well as another coal thumper. At least that was the hope to the leader of Sanctuary. Before, there was a coal deficit. And the overdrive was activated to provide temporary relief. Yes, and it was drawn to her attention that the gathering post needed workers for it to offset this deficit. And then the projections were that there would be a surplus of coal. This was good news. Something that was in woefully short supply by this point. And with 2 sawmills gathering wood. That should provide for the needs of Sanctuary for certainly long enough for other means to be developed. During the night, the fishing boat was reached by the scout party. Useful supplies were found. And it was decided that the fishing village was worth looking into. And from personal experience, I could understand that. Considering what both I and the leader of Winterhome before it's... well... let us just say that it could come in handy for those that utilize it. The people of Sanctuary could afford to relax for a time, as there was enough coal to fuel the generator, and they would no longer, well, for now at least, worry about freezing to death due to the generator shutting down. Yes, she determined that there was enough space for a coal thumper and a gathering post. So the gathering post was constructed first, because more steel would be needed. There was enough steel for 3 steam hubs, if they so choose to build that many. Although other structures would require that steel besides the steam hubs, although at least one would need to be built in order to reach the iron. The overdrive was turned off to let the generator cool down. Well, cool down enough for it to not blow up, as that's what happens when it overheats. The drawing boards were started with the research. No, that's a bad way of putting it. The drawing board... Why can't I get the words out? The drawing boards were in the process of being researched. Yes, that's the best way of putting it. Some workers would need to be allocated towards the gathering post construction in order for it to, well, start at all. Well, children couldn't be assigned to that as, well, they aren't authorized to work in that sort of job. it wasn't safe. The trees were running out on both sides. This would need to be dealt with, at least before the supply of wood ran out. Well, it would not be impossible to construct steam hubs without a road, although how would the supply of power be transported to it, as it needs a road in order to be useful? And speaking of useful, she had plans to improve the medical facilities, which had no impact on the amount of coal being gathered. At least, no impact that mattered. As another medical post was constructed. Because the people were desperately in need of medical treatment. One was clearly not enough. More than one was needed. The fishing village had raw food, and the drill was repaired. Well, it could have been salvaged for steam cores and steel, but the leader of Sanctuary decided it was more useful long-term intact. She then recalled the scouts to deliver their supplies. Supplies that would be needed sooner rather than later. If the research that unlocks better research was not to be completed on this day, it would definitely be completed the next day.
Finish your labors, the work day is up.
even though there was not enough people to operate the coal thumper that was being constructed in the north. It couldn't hurt to be prepared. And in the night, a law was signed for prosthetics. Well, when there was a facility capable of making them. Could be built, of course. There was a couple of technologies that was of interest to the leader of Sanctuary, especially for long-term survival. But that can wait until the next day. You should know how these work by now. I see the start of each day as around 8 o'clock. Local time, of course. As that is the end... sorry, the start of the standard work shift. She appeared to be not that interested in looking into shifts longer than they needed to be. The second medical post eased the situation with the sick somewhat, but there were still those in need of medical care that could not get into the medical post. Or even the other medical post. The overdrive was activated once more, providing more heat for those that needed it. The night was cold, but Sanctuary did not need to be. Nor did it have to be. Two groups of refugees were heading towards Sanctuary, and the scout delivered its vital supplies. Supplies of raw food, wood, and steel. Using this windfall of supplies, plans for heat zone expansion were made. Although from which direction? And it was determined that from the east northwards was not a good idea. It didn't reach quite far enough. As for from the north eastwards, that was a viable option, but it needed more efficiency. The heat zone needed to be in contact with the steel works, or rather where it would be. And besides, with another group of refugees approaching, more tents would need to be made. As for where to send, yes, the scouts went to Hanged Man's Hill, an ominous sounding location. But that was where they were going. By this point, the temperature lowered, although it would decrease much more within the next few days, and so preparations would need to be made in order to deal with this.
Work time! Get moving!
Well, I can say this much about the leader of Sanctuary. She was good under pressure. The pressure of a rapidly increasing population, relatively speaking. Making sure that food and shelter increased around the same rates.